Hello, welcome back to the Sideboard here at the Regional Championship, part of SCG Con Charlotte. I'm Nick Miller alongside Dylan Ahern, and we have a spicy one for you. This is not your Belcher list that you're expecting to see when you see a list of all blue cards, all flip lands. This is something else entirely. Take us through the Selective Memory combo deck.
Yeah. So I decided to play this over Belcher because a lot of the cards that hurt Belcher, like Stony Silence and Graveyard Hate for your Tameshi, are really popular right now because those are good against Underworld Breach.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I'm playing Selective Memory, which can exile your whole deck and let you win with Thassa's Oracle or Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and you don't have to play any of the cards that are vulnerable to that Underworld Breach hate.
And we're doing a similar thing in that our whole mana base are these flip lands, but you also have this other angle. You know, you get to play all of these effects that make your spells cheaper.
Yep.
You get a bunch of, finding your spells with, I think we have to call out Stock Up here from the latest set, Aether Drift.
Stock Up is insane. When it was spoiled, I thought it was fine, but after playing with it, it's just like so powerful. And I've been casting it for 2 or even 1 mana all day because this deck, in order to match the speed of Belcher, rather than play Lotus Bloom, I'm playing Sapphire Medallion and Baral, Chief of Compliance, so that I can play turn 2 Cost Reducer, turn 3 Selected Memory, turn 4 Oracle to win the game.
Right.
And those cost reducers make your card selection so powerful, and you can chain Stock Ups or Selendi Visions or Thundertrap Trainers into one another and churn through your deck at a really fast pace.
So in matches where you don't just get to turn 4 them,
Mm-hmm.
you get to do this thing where you get to take advantage of all this mana reduction and stock up your hand, sculpt the right game plan, and win that way.
Yeah, against Black-White or like the Psychic Frog decks, you get to really kind of out-card advantage them with cards like Stock Up.
Is there anything else going on that we need to know about in terms of the setup? And then I'm going to ask you about some of the more complicated things you do with the actual Selective Memory process and what cards you leave, if you leave any, and so on.
Yeah, other than the cost reducers and alternate win condition, this deck plays a lot like Belcher. You need to sequence your lands effectively. You need to know when to play a tapped land versus an untapped land. You have a lot of the same free counter spells that Belcher plays. So it does play very similarly to Belcher, which is good. Like, I like Belcher a lot, so that's why I wanted to play this deck. Yeah.
Take us through the wild stuff you're doing, because I've heard tales of you playing today having 16 card piles that you've sculpted and things like that. What are the intricacies here?
So against a lot of decks, against Boros or Black-White, they don't have many ways to interact with your Thassa's Oracle. You can often just Selective Memory, leave 1 Thassa's Oracle in your deck, and win the game the next turn. And they can't do anything about it. But other decks, like the Frog decks, have a lot of counter spells or Consign to Memories or different things like that. So earlier I was playing against Frog, and I left 18 cards in my deck. I left all my Stock Ups and all my really efficient counter spells, and I just made my deck super streamlined so I could grind the game out and fight through all their counter magic.
And are you gaining a bunch of points percentage-wise on these players who probably have played a lot against Belcher but have not played against this deck? Are you catching anyone off guard,
a little bit,
misstepping where they should play counter spells or disruption?
I think this being open deck list makes that happen a little less, but people are definitely not used to seeing this, and they might not be misplaying so much, but their sideboard is less prepared to play against this. Like, they've got Graveyard Hate and Stony Silence in their sideboard, which would be good against Belcher, but against me, they have a lot fewer cards to bring in.
All right, and that's got to help. Anything notable about the lands? How many of these lands are you playing the spells frequently, and how many are you just kind of playing as lands that don't count as lands for your Selective Memory?
This deck doesn't really play Hydroelectric Specimen as a creature very often. And unlike Belcher, you don't ever really cast your Seagate Restoration. But the other MDFC lands, you cast them as spells very often. Sink into Stupor lets you fight through hate. Selene Vision lets you find your Selective Memory to win the game. And Bane Veil is very good against Boros. You can like fog them for a turn.
Anything going on in the sideboard that we should know? It's a blue deck, so of course there's Consigned Memories here. Are you doing anything with it specifically, or are you just fighting Eldrazi with it?
Eldrazi, and it's good against Black-White as well. Black-White is, they have a unique way of fighting this deck. They can Flicker Wisp, and White Orc can Phantom all your lands. And if they flicker your land, it doesn't come back into play because it's not a permanent, so it stays in exile. So you bring in Consign to fight against their Flicker Wisps and their Aven Interrupters. So it's good against Black-White and Eldrazi. Yeah.
And you bring in the basics, I'm guessing, in that same matchup.
Yep, the basics are for Black-White, for their White Orc Phantoms. They're also good against Amulet. They go up to 3 or 4 Beseiju, so similar idea.
What else is going on here? We got some, I wanted to say Blood Moon, but Harbinger and the Sea
Pretty much Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harbinger, it's good against Eldrazi, good against Amulet. Unable to Scream lets you fight against decks like Boros or Frog. And my one weird card in my sideboard is Displacement Wave, which returns all non-land permanents X or less to their owner's hands. That's my extra little wrath effect against decks like Boros.
Sure.
You can cast it for 1, which is often only 2 mana because you have a cost reducer out, and you just bounce all their prides and their guides, all their tokens, and you kind of give yourself a little breathing room.
What's been your favorite moment playing this deck today?
Definitely leaving the 18 cards in my deck and grinding that game out. That was a lot of fun. That was my most fun game of the day, for sure.
Fantastic. All right, you're X2 going into round 9, or X3, sorry.
X3,
so we're hoping for a win,
Yep.
so we get to see you on day 2. I want to see it. I think the people at home also want to see it. So Dylan, thanks for joining me here. Stay tuned to Star City Games all weekend long for the action here in Charlotte.